3 years ago, I left Cuba, my origin country, as a real Muslim to start seeking Islamic knowledge and making Hijrah. One of the things that I came about when I finally took that step is that there are certain things that people will not tell you once you are going to make this journey. And why is that people don't tell you certain things and certain aspects about becoming a student of knowledge very young as a revert out here in these kind of countries? Because they romanticize it. People tend to romanticize hijrah. People say, well, you're gonna be a Talib al everything is gonna be okay, you're gonna, you know, deal with here and there. But in reality, they don't tell you the raw reality of making hijrah. So here, from my experience, I'm gonna tell you something that is very important to tell other Latinos or other reverts who want to actually travel and come here and seek Islam. First point that I want to tell you is that ilm is very jealous. Ilm is one of those things that if you don't actually take and pay attention to it and cater to it and dedicate your entirety to it, you will not get nothing out of it. You will, in the beginning, since you may or may not come with certain standards of Islamic knowledge or certain standards of studies. Me, myself, for example, in Cuba, we have one of the hardest educational systems in Latin America, meaning that we our country exports our professionals. So basically, we have a very hard foundation in order to reach university or reach college and stuff like that. So one of the things that I came to face is that these places don't have that kind of standard. Actually, the entry level is very low, but in order for you to reap the benefits, you actually need to get some work done. You need to jump into a foreign language. You need to jump into foreign methodologies that you don't actually know nothing about. For example, in my case, I went to a traditional madrasa in Turkey, and I went to university in Turkey to get my Arabic degree and my Turkish degree. And in both cases, you see that the difference of the highest level of education, so in the top of the mountain, you actually see that there is a big difference between what you expect to happen and what actually happens. So, for example, in my personal situation, I will take 100 times the actual traditional knowledge or the traditional way to learn Islam. But that contradicts with everything you're actually trying to get done. Because once again, romanticizing Hijrah, sometimes, at least me, I came thinking that I was going to enjoy my time. I was going to, if I wanted to learn somewhere else, I was going to be able to do it. Or if I wanted to learn with the sheikh, I was going to be able to do that. But the raw reality of it is that there is already institutions and systems built in order to get you to a certain level, and the level is standardized. So that was the first shock that I had. There is a high difference between institutional education and traditional education and the benefits you get out of them. The next thing that I realized is that seeking ilm is expensive. It's really expensive, and you are not ready for it. I have seen university students, specifically theology students or kulliyat sharia, how they like to call it, students having to figure out in a way or the other how to make some money. Because yes, you might get your scholarship, yes, you might get some help here and there, your family may be able to help you, but in many cases, that is not the reality. That is not the reality at all. At least in my personal case, it wasn't. I didn't have access to many things. I didn't have access to X amount of money. So I had to do what I had to do throughout my journey seeking Islamic knowledge in Turkey. So what happened was that at least myself, I had to learn entrepreneurship, and I had to make a pause in seeking Islamic knowledge. Of course, Alhamdulillah, it helped me out. It actually turned out well. And I ended up coming to Egypt with a good position in a company that I am now the CEO of, Timbuktu Seminary, which is one of the oldest online Islamic education platforms, right there, led by Sheikh Abdullah. And now, yeah, you know the ins and outs of being a Westerner living abroad trying to seek Islamic knowledge while juggling life responsibilities. So, yeah, you have to learn a skill. You need to master something before you take your first step in making hijrah. You need to master something. People normally go for sales or for marketing just because it's a foreign language. For example, in my case, I can speak Spanish, English, Arabic, and Turkish. But in reality, you end up in a position in which you don't know nothing about, but you actually can sell something to some people. I ended up selling elevator parts. I ended up selling factories utensils in Turkey in order to make a little bit of money, not even too much, because you're a student, you don't have permission to work, you don't have certain things, so you have to deal with what they give you. So right then and there, I realized that, okay, I came skillless, but at least I know how to study. At least I know how to ace my grades. And that's what I did. Instead of doing that, I placed all my focus on entrepreneurship. Alhamdulillah, I had my first mentor who was actually an entrepreneur in the time at the time, and he gave me access to his knowledge. And the mentors he was actually taking knowledge from and trying, of course, in this online entrepreneurship space, you have many people talking about many things, but in reality, nobody is doing what they have to do in respect of their team. So people compromise their religion to make a little bit of more money. Remember, you're making hijrah, you're trying to seek Islamic knowledge, you're following the light of Allah, and now you're faced with what? You're faced with the raw situation that you actually need to make money somehow. So, Alhamdulillah, I had access to this brother, Allahumma barik, and he gave me the tools and resources to discern what was good and what wasn't. Alhamdulillah. And of course, working with him, I actually learned what things don't belong there and what things actually belong in a business and how to actually navigate these kind of things because anyways you want to have a legitimate business even if you're not registered or whatever, but you want to be legitimate. You want to give your client security of certain things. You need to have the actual ability to deliver it. And if you're not going to be the one delivering, you need somebody with the technical skills to do that. So master a skill. In my case, it was operations, all of the things that has to do with business operations, strategizing, and copywriting. So in the end, if I couldn't aim to the highest position I could as a strategist and an operator, which just basically means you decide what you're going to prioritize for, you find out the industry standard for it, you follow the industry standard, you become better about it, and you push towards it, and that's how you make, well, a lot of money, you know? Or in the other hand, I could have just said, okay, if you have an email list or you have anything whatsoever, I know how to type words in English, I know how to make high converting emails or pieces of copy. I can be a ghostwriter for you, and that's how we're gonna make some money. Also, before coming, I had enrolled in a fitness university in Cuba, the only one that we have in Havana, which is why I came with a not great physique. I wasn't a bodybuilder or, not, or something like that, but I came with a half decent physique that could have been used for marketing purposes in order to sell some sort of coaching. Remember, all of these things are service based and it takes time. And remember, I'm still demanding time from you. I'm still asking you, what are you going? What are you doing? You need to talk to your sheikh. Why didn't you prepare for class? Why did you leave as soon as the class finished? There are certain things that you need to deal with. And also, if you are going to university, you have to juggle with it. So that was basically one of the second thing that I wanted to tell you. First off, time is demanding. Second off, you need to have a skill. Now, third point is that these Muslim countries don't want you here. They don't want you to come and stay. So you need to be ready. Once again, with money to be able to pay for your residencies, to be able to pay for housing, to be able to pay for anything. For example, I'm married. I had to take care of tickets. I had to take care of certain things, my family's food, and all of these things. Inshallah ta'ala. So you need to be ready to hustle for your iqama, for your residency. But now to the bright side. You will have access to everything you ever dream of having in the West as a Muslim seeker of knowledge in no time. That's super good. You have access to masajids every single day, no matter what. You can hear the adhan. Just yesterday, I was talking to my wife. It was time for Salatul Fajr, and I literally said to her, "Look, hear that in the middle of the silence." It, believe me, getting Cairo to be silent is a little tricky thing. You could hear the adhan. You could stand up, make wudu, get ready, and go to the masjid. Me personally, I keep this little book around, which is Adhkar al-Sabah wal-Masa, and my mushaf. And the next thing I do is I take them both, get dressed, go to the masjid, sit there. I do my muraja'a in the morning. I do my Adhkar al-Sabah in the morning in the masjid. I pray, of course, and I do then I go about my day. Then I go about my work because as a CEO, you're a full-time worker. You don't get to rest, you know? And last but not least is the network of high talent and hardworking brothers that you may find here. They're rare to find. They say they're here for something, but they're for the opposite. But you might be able to find, you know, good brothers in Islam who actually want to seek knowledge to develop themselves and stuff like that. So yeah, that leads me to the idea for the next video. Let me know in the comment section if you wanted to talk about it. If you want to talk about it or want me to talk about it and share my experience with you, which is basically how do you go about the standard? How do you standardize your life? Because remember, you need to master certain things anyways. Islam is a deen is your lifestyle. So, here and there we have worked on trying to optimize or find out the best blueprint in order to optimize your life as a student of knowledge and as a muhajir out here. So if that's something you would like to talk about, just let me know down there in the comments. Anyhow, I'm gonna try to, keep you guys on the roll with this. جزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة